Live from Citizen TV, this is Citizen Weekend with Victoria Rubadiri.
Day 2 of humanitarian efforts in Embakasi following the devastating gas explosion on Thursday, and we'll be giving you the latest figures coming out of that tragedy coming up on Citizen Weekend. These are the day's top stories.
Tulikuwa na anko masaa ya jioni, explosion ikitoka, alikuwa kwa nyumba. Vile alitoka nje ni kama hiyo joto ilimlemea, kaanguka chini.
Grief and loss. Families search for their loved ones as the death toll from the Embakasi gas explosion rises.
Those fellows who are involved in this, the ministry must immediately take action against them, and they must be dismissed and they must be prosecuted.
President Ruto slams government officers for issuing license to Embakasi gas plant owner as NEMA suspends officials who issued licenses to the same company. Changing systems. Education Ministry seeks to have parents and guardians pay school fees through the e-Citizen platform.
I was expecting to be here since the 15th January, but the organization delays. As I came late as now, so I'm very happy just I am here, and I thank God for that.
The refugee from South Sudan who braved a 3-day journey from Kakuma to Muranga to join high school. Welcome to the broadcast. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Stanley Kinyanjui. Now, the death toll from the Embakasi gas explosion rose to 4 today after a patient succumbed while undergoing treatment. Hundreds of victims of the gas explosion that caused a fire in Mradi area in Embakasi East constituency continue to receive treatment at various hospitals in Nairobi. Now, doctors have escalated efforts to attend to those in critical condition, with some already discharged after receiving treatment. Safin Acheng Oma spoke to the relatives of those who were injured, who narrated their shock upon receiving the news about the tragedy and the huge loss they have incurred.
The second day after the gas explosion in Mradi area of Embakasi East constituency, hundreds of people who sustained injuries continue to receive treatment at various hospitals in Nairobi. At the Kenyatta National Hospital, relatives and friends of the victims continue to trickle in, seeking to know the status of their loved ones. Kenyatta National Hospital received those who were in the worst condition, some of whom had been transferred from other medical facilities. Simon Mwangi arrives this morning from Mombasa to visit his wife, who escaped death by a whisker, albeit with serious injuries on her face. He is still shaken by the news.
Ameshomeka uso yote. Hata macho ukimwangalia haoni, imefugana. Anaongea tu pole pole. But nimeona analikafa jana, hakuwa anaongea, leo at least anaongea. Nilijaribu kuongelesha kwa simu, hakuwa anaongea.
Joyce Omondi, a mother of a 30-year-old patient at the facility, took a similar journey from Western Kenya after receiving a call that her son and his wife were admitted in hospital in critical condition.
Nilishtuka sana. Nimefika hospitali, nimeona pia na bibi yake. Ni kama wamepata majeraha, lakini bibi yake ndiye ameumia sana. Yeye ameumia upande wa mgongo, kichwa pia kiasi, lakini bibi ndiye ameumia sana. Naomba tu Mungu awashikilie.
By Friday evening, The Kenyatta National Hospital had received 50 casualties. 11 were in critical condition with burns of over 50%. 19 had varying degrees of injuries ranging from 4 to 10% burns and soft tissue injuries. 13 patients were admitted in the disaster ward where some needed emergency services, most of them undergoing surgery.
Tungeomba serikali ingililie at least isaidia hao watu wenye hawajiwezi. Kuna wenye hata hawawezi raise bills, kuna wenye nyumba zao zimechomekewa like my brother. Serikali ingililie tusaidie.
According to the Chief Executive Officer of Mbagathi Hospital, Dr. Alex Irungu, 35 casualties were admitted at the medical facility after the fire tragedy. Among those who were in critical condition, 13 were referred to Kenyatta National Hospital for specialized treatment. 1 was taken to Coptic Hospital, while 2 were taken to Tenwek Hospital in Bomet County upon request by their families. Dr. Irungu confirmed that all the remaining 19 patients have been treated and discharged. Doctors at the Kenyatta University Teaching, Referral and Research Hospital, which received 14 patients, continue to attend to 6 patients admitted at the facility, with 1 patient said to be in the intensive care unit, while 8 others have since been discharged.
We admitted a total of 6 patients, 5 of whom required to go to theatre for various treatments to be performed on them. 1 patient from theatre ended up going into ICU for recovery because his burns were a bit more critical than the rest. The rest of the other patients were taken back to the ward where they are now recovering well.
Kenyatta National Hospital has set up an information desk for families or anyone who wants to inquire about their loved ones. At the same time, some of the victims are still searching for their loved ones, with reports showing that some children remain missing. Safin Acheng Oma, Citizen TV.
Now, a family is trying to make sense of the sudden demise of their kin after he succumbed to his injuries this morning following the Thursday inferno. 45-year-old Austin Shivandas is one of the lives unceremoniously cut short by the blast. Now, as investigations continue into just what happened that fateful Thursday night, Austin's family hopes justice will indeed be served to ensure his was not a life lost in vain. It could be seen for kilometers. A fireball lit the night sky over Embakasi just before midnight on Thursday. The magnitude of the blast caused by a gas explosion jolted Embakasi residents out of their slumber. 45-year-old Austin Shivanda unaware of what broke the still of a quiet night. His neighbor Dennis recounts the events of that harrowing experience.
Kwanza kabla kukuwa na huyo mlipuko kulikuwa na gas ilikuwa na sambaa ikiinuka. So tukawa tunatoroka na kutoka nje. Sasa ilikuwa unaenda ukigonga tu mlango wa mtu na unakimbia ukienda. So ni kama yeye kutoka vile tulimgongea sababu ilikuwa unagonga tukawa umetoka ukishout. So after hapo sijui vile kulienda sababu kila mtu alikimbia kivyake akijua mwingine ameshaamka.
Soon after, Austin's niece Georgina arrived at his home.
Venye nilikuja kufunga mlango jana, nilipata kitambaa pale. Nikaichukua tu nikaiweka hapo. Ni kama alijaribu kupangusa nayo na akachomoka nje.
They quickly rushed him to hospital for treatment, not knowing those would be the last moments they would have with Austin alive.
Lakini tumempoteza leo asubuhi.
Austin had just secured a job as a driver after arriving in Nairobi only 2 weeks ago. He left behind a wife and child who reside upcountry. The family made an appeal to the government to crack down on more illegal gas-filling sites to avert another tragedy and spare other families the agony they will bear for years to come. Now, the gravity of the gas explosion tragedy that occurred on Thursday is increasingly becoming apparent. At the Embakasi Social Hall, dozens of families are seeking relief in the form of food and shelter. Some are mourning the loss of loved ones, while others are persistently searching for their missing kin. Ben Kirui spent time both at the temporary shelter and the scene and brings us more.
2 days since the devastating gas explosion, families from the Mradi area of Embakasi East continue to grapple with its aftermath. Some mourn the loss of loved ones, some search for missing family members, and others have lost everything, including homes and possessions. Among them is Teresa Mayaka's family. The family of 12 is seeking refuge at the Embakasi constituency social hall. They arrived on Friday in search of shelter, sustenance and clothing.
Watoto 12 na mimi na baba, hivyo tuko kwa familia watu 14. Kuna mwingine wako mmoja wako Sharon naendelea kushughulikiwa. Kuna wawili wako Kenyatta lakini wanaendelea kushughulikiwa.
Despite the limited support provided by humanitarian agencies, the government and well-wishers, Teresa remains hopeful that she will soon regain her home.
Vile tulichomekea hivi na vile walitushughulikia, tuko na imani tutatoka hapa tuende kila mtu apate nyumba yake.
Caroline McKenna faces a similar situation together with her daughter. She is housed at the hall after losing everything in the explosion.
Mtoto wangu for first time ndo tukuja tulala hapa, alikuwa anauliza atalala wapi, but akakutana na mama fulani alikuwa hapa, tukatuongelesha, tukalia because of what si tulijishuhudia, tukatubakisha like 30 minutes tukufe.
Various organizations including the UNHCR, the national and county governments, as well as the leadership of Embakasi continue to join hands to offer humanitarian support in form of food, clothing, medication and other essential needs.
We brought a donation here of tarpaulins, mats, blankets, as well as kitchen sets that people can use while they're trying to establish their new locations, their lives.
Tumefanya mikakati. So far we are at a position where we've collected 2.1 million shillings from Raila, 1 million, from myself 1 million, from other leaders also 100,000. But we are still collecting more because we need to help our people.
Meanwhile, numerous families continue their search for missing loved ones in the aftermath of the Thursday night inferno. According to the Kenya Red Cross, 14 people are still missing, but the actual count could be higher. Red Cross officials stationed in the neighborhood are actively assisting families in locating their missing relatives.
The government announced plans to reconstruct homes reduced to ashes in the aftermath of the tragic fire caused by gas explosion. But until then, dozens of families will have to endure calling this place home. Ben Kirui, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
President William Ruto has ordered the prosecution of government officials implicated in licensing the gas plant at the center of the Embakasi gas explosion. Now, the move coming just moments after the National Environment Management Authority, or NEMA, suspended 4 officers accused of unprocedurally issuing a medium-risk project license to the ill-fated makeshift gas cylinder refilling depot in Mradi Estate, Embakasi. Seth Olale with the details of the chronology of a shambolic documentation process that led to the establishment of the plant right at the center of a densely populated residential area.
More details are emerging regarding the registration and operationalization of the ill-fated makeshift gas cylinder refilling depot that has claimed lives and injured hundreds of residents in Mradi Estate, Embakasi. According to the National Environment Management Authority, NEMA, a project report by the project proponent, Daddles Petroleum Limited, under the business name of Max's Nairobi Energy, was submitted to NEMA on 29th July 2020. The project was classified as medium risk as per regulation of the Environmental Impact Assessment and Audit Amendment Regulations 2019, Legal Notice 32 of 2019. On 25th April 2022, the EIA project report was dispatched to 6 lead agencies for sectoral review and comments to guide NEMA on the licensing process. They include Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, EPRA, Director of Physical Planning, Nairobi City Water Resources Authority, Directorate of Occupational Safety and Health, Nairobi City Water and Sewerage Company, Director of Urban Planning and Development. On 28 July 2022, a review of the project was done and a number of issues were raised for the project proponent to address the clarity on land ownership, provide evidence of undertaking, consultation with immediate neighbors of Nyayo Estate Residents Association. On 22nd August 2022, the project proponent, through the project lead environmental assessment expert, responded to the issues raised on 28 July 2022. On 1st February 2023, the project proponent submitted a comprehensive EIA report with potential impacts identified and mitigation measures proposed in the Environmental Management Plan. On 2nd February 2023, a record of decision was made to issue the proposed project with an EIA license number NEMA 23819. The license was issued with mandatory EIA license conditions for the project to comply prior to commencement of the construction works of the LPG plant facility. According to NEMA, investigations into the gas explosion, establishing that the ill-fated gas refill plant was licensed as medium risk by the Director Environmental Compliance and not high-risk project to be licensed only by the Director General. The environmental regulator suspending 4 senior officials, including David Ongare, Director Environmental Compliance, Marianne Kioko, Acting Deputy Director Compliance, Lynette Cheriot, Senior Environmental Officer, EIA Section, and Joseph Makau, Head of Environmental Impact Assessment, EIA Section. President William Ruto, during his tour of Western Kenya, called for the prosecution of government officials complicit in the licensing of the Embakasi plant at the heart of a national tragedy.
The fellows, the government officials who issued licenses for gas installations in residential areas when it was very clear that it was the wrong thing to do, but because of incompetence and corruption, they issued licenses. Today we have injuries, we have Kenyans who have died. Those fellows who are involved in this, the ministry must immediately take action against them, and they must be dismissed and they must be prosecuted for what the crimes they have committed.
Part of the exhibits under investigations include the quality and durability of the giant gas cylinder, with one in particular being relocated almost a kilometer away from the explosion site. The proprietor of the plant, Derek Kimathi, remains a fugitive on the run as detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations expand investigations in search of other operatives believed to have been secretly co-managing the company. There are still unanswered questions as to how and why this particular scene was invincible to law enforcement officers who patrolled this particular location on almost an hourly basis. In the meantime, the venue remains an active crime scene even as investigations continue. Seth Olale, Citizen TV, Mradi, Embakasi East.
All right, and after the break, we'll be getting a status update from the head of operations and emergency response at the Kenya Red Cross. But first, Azimio leader Raila Odinga continues to criticize the Kenya Kwanza's affordable housing project and the housing tax, saying there is nothing affordable about the project. Raila says the biggest problem with the project lies in the deduction of the housing tax from salaried Kenyans. And as Hassan Mugambi reports, the opposition leader lauded the church for the recent stand it took on the direction the government is taking.
Kirunga area of North Imenti constituency in Meru County, and opposition leader Raila Odinga stated that he was not opposed to the affordable housing project, but the execution of the Kenya Kwanza administration, and especially the housing levy. Odinga added that the project was not new, claiming to be one of the leaders who crafted it during his time in cabinet.
Mimi ndio nilileta hii mpango ya affordable housing nikiwa waziri wa public roads, public works and housing. Na nilienda huko China, nikaenda kule Korea, kule Singapore, nikaenda kule Malaysia, nikaja na hiyo mpango. It cannot be one size fits all. It must be tailored to specific requirements of specific regions.
The opposition leader faulted the method used by the government to raise revenue, saying all they need to do is fight corruption.
Lakini hata kuongeza ushuru maradufu wala mara 10 bado watakuwa na shida tukiwa mara kwa mara. Hakuna haja ya kuongeza ushuru. Deal with corruption within the system of government.
Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna, who accompanied Odinga alongside other leaders, commended the church, terming its recent stand bold.
Niwashukuru sana viongozi wa makanisa, wale ambao walizungumza jana, wale NCCK, pamoja na wale ambao wamezungumza hapa. Nataka niwashukuru kwa kukiri kwamba serikali ambayo ipo sasa sio serikali ambayo mliunga mkono.
Odinga had graced the graduation party for the daughter of Zablon Madenge Mwariama, his long-term friend. Hassan Mugambi, Citizen TV.
President William Ruto has hailed the housing and health projects undertaken by his administration, saying they are the foundation for social and economic growth. Speaking in Kakamega County during the third day of his tour of Western Kenya region, the president also put on notice education officials sending away learners, adding that the government has released funding to schools and reiterating the importance of education as an equalizer for social progress. Ayub Abdikadir reports.
Day 3 of his Western Kenya tour took the president to Lugari constituency in Kakamega County, where the head of state mounted a robust defense of projects his administration is undertaking. The president drumming up support for some of his administration's pet projects, touting the new social health insurance fund as a cornerstone to reset the country's healthcare.
Sasa tumesema kwa sheria mpya, wale wananchi hawana uwezo kabisa, lazima pia wawe na NHIF. Lakini kwa sababu hawana uwezo wa kulipa, serikali ya Kenya tutawalipia wote wale wako chini, ndio kila mtu awe na bima ya afya, aende hospitali atibiwe na aende nyumbani bila ya kulizwa tena.
Mimi waziri wengi nataka kuwakonfirmia, si siku nyingine kuanzia tarehe 1 mwezi wa 3 mnaanza kulipa shilingi 500.
On the housing subject, President Ruto and leaders in his company amplifying what they view as its multiplier effect, urging the president not to give a listening ear to criticism.
Therefore, Your Excellency, I want to ask you, do not be deterred from the focus you have on delivery to the people of Kenya.
On learners locked out of schools, the president said his administration has released funds amid concerns raised by parents of learners who were turned away when schools reopened.
Watoto wetu hasa wa JSS, kuna maneno ulaghai inaendelea shuleni. Kuna watu, mtoto wa JSS akienda shuleni anaambiwa mambo mawili. Ya kwanza anaambiwa pesa serikali haijalete, wewe enda lete school fees. Mimi nataka niwatangazie, serikali ya Kenya tumetoa 7.5 bilioni 7.5 ya kusomesha watoto wetu wa JSS. Hakuna mtu ako na ruhusa ya kuuliza pesa
at the school fees kwa sababu serikali imelipa.
The head of state's tour of Kakamega County comes only 5 months since his last visit to the region. His tour also prominently featured talks on reviving the ailing sugar sector in the region, with the president committing to get the sugar factories back to work. He was accompanied by, among other leaders, Kakamega County Governor Fernandez Barasa, the National Assembly Speaker Moses Masika Wetangula, National Assembly Leader of Majority Kimani Ichung'wah, and the area lawmaker Nabi Nabuera. Ayub Abdikadir, Citizen TV.
All right, 24 minutes past the hour. We take our first short break here on Citizen Weekend. Much more ahead, including my conversation with the head of emergency operations and response at Kenya Red Cross. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. Joining me in studio now is the Major Retired Venant Digila, Head of Operations at the Kenya Red Cross. Thank you so much for coming in. I know you've been on the ground pretty much the whole day, so thank you for making time this evening. Let's begin with the emergency response, Venant. We know there was an appeal for blood put out, was it yesterday?
Yes.
And there is such an influx of burn injuries. What's the state of treating those right now?
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for having me today. And we have been responding to this unfortunate situation since when it happened. And we find ourselves in the emergency response even up to today because we are seeing some of those who are affected, some those who got the burns injury coming out as late as today. For example, up to today we have responded to 113, beside the ones which went to hospital. This is because, of course, there was a lot of trauma, and many tried maybe to run away. And many also maybe little understanding and awareness around burns injuries. That's when they're coming out today. So we have been forced to continue responding through first aid and basic treatment of those injured, and the numbers continue to increase again today until we finished some of the supplies we had. We had to order again the essential supplies to manage burns at that stage. So it is an incident which initially appeared like very short term as an emergency, but we find ourselves continuing again.
And how many households have been affected so far?
So far we have 305 which we have been able to verify as affected, but we still have our tracing desk open. So that the ones which maybe are in hospital, the ones which were living alone in their houses, we continue to look for them and identify. So we have not closed this, but as of now we have 305 families.
So what are some of their major needs? We're looking at food, shelter, even sustenance, because some of them can't work because of the injuries.
Yes, thank you again for most of the well-wishers have come out to support with food. And also one of the other immediate needs was shelter, of course. And again, thank you to the county government. They have given some shelter, the social hall, where we are able to put them up for these few nights. Yeah. But as we look forward, we have a lot of needs. We see a lot of needs around livelihoods because most of them, again, nobody was here having a farm. They were farming here. Most of them are working,
right.
And a bigger number is the adults, so therefore a bigger number have lost the breadwinners. So it is about livelihood support. Of course, there's that early recovery needs around shelter and also household items, but more will come around livelihoods as we move forward.
Right. Another thing that cropped up, Venant, was the number of missing children. So I know the Kenya Red Cross has been involved in reunifying them with their parents. What is the status right now?
As by yesterday, we had a big number of children who again found their way into the School of Aviation. Those ones we managed to link them back with their parents, those who are 21. But we continued, our desk continued to receive the numbers. As at now, we we have 14 which were reported, but we have managed to link back 5, and we have closed those ones. So we still have the 9 which we are continuing to link them. And again, a number of them are children, but the processes which we are using, we hope we are going to link them back with their families.
Before I let you go, and we were talking about this during the break, you were actually with the Red Cross during the Sinai fire tragedy. How does this compare? Because these are similar in terms of scale. How does this compare to the Sinai fire?
If I talk about what we did as Kenya Red Cross, as a first response organization, they compare very much because of the impact around the level of trauma and also the suddenness of the occurrence. And again, it occurred in a residential area where the families feel the most, or rather, in the safest place. But whatever the disaster follows them there. So you find that the level of trauma for those who are affected is high, and affecting therefore even the initial and basic coping mechanism, and also again the recovery. Even a normal person will still need some support to have the basics about recovery. And also now the numbers in terms of the affected. Of course, Sinai, we had a bigger number of fatalities. Right. If I remember well, it was 119. This one had more injuries. Sinai had less injuries and more fatalities, but still it is still the same pressure on the responders because of the suddenness of the incident. And then again, the environment because this is where most of them had their houses. This is where most of them had their little children. And then also the affected community. You find that most of them are the ones who don't have alternative livelihoods. They don't have alternative shelter. Right. Once you destroy that shelter, then they'll have a lot of challenges. So those are the similarities, and that is what we are forced to deal with even in this one.
I have to ask this because you already alluded to it in terms of where do we go from here, especially for the families that have been displaced, the temporary shelter. In the interim, what's the plan to ensure that they have at least a roof over their heads?
Yeah, in the interim, this is very, very transitional. The arrangements we are putting now are very transitional, and they're expected to be so. So we are trying to work, of course, with the national government and the county government to see how we can be able to support them transit to a more permanent shelter. Most of them are tenants, so we are moving towards supporting them maybe with rent to seek alternative accommodation. But also we are looking at supporting them with some livelihood or some way of triggering recovery around livelihoods, because a big number of them are also doing small-scale businesses.
Right. Thank you so much, Venant, for coming in and painting a picture of what's happening on the ground. Certainly a story we'll be following in the next few days and weeks. Let's take a short break here on Citizen Weekend. Much more ahead. Welcome back. Now, the government has directed school heads across the country to share their institution's bank details by February 6th, as it plans to ensure parents pay school fees through the e-Citizen platform, as opposed to paying the fees directly to school accounts. Now, in a circular sent on Wednesday this week, school heads have until Tuesday next week to share the bank details with the Ministry of Education. Marianne Nyambura reports.
Parents of students in public schools will be mandated to pay school fees for their children through the government online platform e-Citizen. A memo to all national school principals dated 31st January 2024 and signed by Basic Education Principal Secretary Bello Kipsang directed institution heads to share school bank account details with the Office of the Director General, State Department of Basic Education by Tuesday, 6th February 2024. This, the PS says, is part of the government's efforts to onboard all government services onto the e-Citizen platform to enhance service delivery. The payment of school fees through the platform is part of a plan to make it the latest addition to the pool of over 5,000 government services offered on the e-Citizen portal that was revamped and launched by President William Ruto in 2023. To seal all loopholes, the Ministry of Education has further directed school heads to quit charging extra levies to parents outside authorized fees. In a circular sent on February 2nd, Basic Education PS Bello Kipsang says that the ministry caters for tuition requirements through capitation for primary and junior secondary schools. Hence, no extra fees should be charged. PS Kipsang directed that action will be taken on school principals, board of management and head teachers who charge unauthorized levies. Kipsang has directed that no child should be denied schooling for failing to pay for the school lunch program, which is optional for pupils. Maria Nyambura, Citizen TV.
A South Sudanese boy from Kakuma refugee camp traveled 3 days to secure a Form 1 admission at Gituro High School in Murang'a County. Joseph Peter's quest for education could not be stopped by distance and financial constraints, and with the help of well-wishers, he reported to school, albeit late. Emily Chabet reports.
It is a dream come true for Joseph Peter, a Form 1 student at Gituro Secondary School in Kandara constituency in Murang'a County. His thirst for education saw him spend 3 days and nights on the road on his way here from Kakuma refugee camp in the northern part of Kenya. Joseph, a former pupil at Joy Primary School in Kalobeye in Turkana West, scored 360 marks in the 2023 KCPE examination.
I was expecting to be here since date 15 January, but the organization delays, as I came late as now. So I'm very happy just I am here, and I thank God for that.
He arrived here at about 9 a.m. We were able to settle him very well. We've integrated him quite well with the rest of the students. He's a determined boy, and he's ready to make it to a grade of A that he's promising now.
Joseph, who comes from Tulid County in South Sudan, has been in the country for 7 years after relocating with his parents in 2017. They settled in Kakuma refugee camp. Armed with a pen and book, Joseph is closely following a chemistry lesson while trying to forget, at least for a moment, the struggle that he and 118 other pupils from the camp went through to continue with their education, thanks to Good Samaritans.
We slept in the place where they are supposed to distribute the school stationaries to us. So we slept there and start the journey in the next day. On Tuesday, that is when we start the journey and came here. I slept in Lokichar, so we slept there and started the journey again at 3 a.m.
From the hottest part of the country to one of the coolest, while appreciating those who contributed to his journey, Joseph says his desire to scale higher heights and change his story begins here, promising that his long travel to this school will be worthwhile.
The responsibility was given to a certain woman, but I don't capture the name, that she was the one to pay our fare from Kitali to the separated school.
We as a school are very delighted that he has come all the way from Kakuma. I request the parents around Murang'a and Central Kenya and all over the country that it is important that they come also looking for this institution. This is one of the best schools we have in Murang'a County.
It is this new environment that Joseph will utilize for the next 4 years to shape his future. Emily Chabet, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Wow, what an inspiring young man right there. All the best to Joseph in his studies. Now, Public Service Performance and Delivery Management Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria has called for absorption of NYS recruits into the disciplined forces. In a recruitment exercise briefing with NYS officials, the CS reiterated the need to adhere to a transparent and verifiable process, while urging NYS graduates to be responsible citizens and avoid substance abuse and engaging in illegalities.
In a brief to the National Youth Service members, Kuria echoed President William Ruto's directive for NYS graduates to be given a priority in military and police recruitment.
Of every recruitment starting from this year to the Kenya Defence Forces will be drawn from the men and women whom we are just about to go and recruit. I repeat, 80% of the Kenya Defence Forces will be drawn from the National Youth Service. 80% of the National Police Service, all its formation, GSU, AP, all of them, will be coming from the National Youth Service.
Kuria, in appreciating the country's exponentially growing population, said Kenya's young population will help the country's economic growth.
Population is a very youthful population, and we cannot joke with this issue. It is a blessing and an opportunity, because if you look at the global north, they have exactly the different opposite problem, where they have an aging population and they need a lot of people to work.
The CS warned NYS graduates against engaging in activities that are illegal, citing cases of drug abuse, corruption and nepotism.
In the unlikely events that you slip through the dragnet of our watchful agencies, Mungu anakungojea, and your date is drawn. So consider yourself, ladies and gentlemen, to be very privileged to be sitting here today.
And ahead of the nationwide recruitment of 15,000 NYS recruits starting Monday, which will run until the 9th of this month, Kuria, in a letter addressed to the Director General of NYS, called for the promotion of equality and fairness, which he said will promote national unity. In his letter, the CS called for the sharing of the schedule with all the relevant stakeholders, adherence to the distribution as outlined in the schedule, regular monitoring and reporting mechanisms, open communication channels for feedback to address discrepancies, and maintaining of professionalism and integrity throughout the process. He was joined by the Deputy Director General Jamlek Habari and other senior NYS officials. Ayub Abdikadir, Citizen TV.
The government has today affirmed its commitment to fast-track the construction of the 20 billion shilling Koru Soin multi-purpose dam to harness water for irrigation and boost the country's food security. Speaking after touring the site on Saturday, Water Cabinet Secretary Zachariah Njeru revealed that the dam will cut the cost of production at the West Kano irrigation scheme and incentivize farmers to put more land under irrigation. And as Laura Otieno reports, the completion of the dam is set to inject an additional 140,000 metric tons of rice to the national basket and cut down on importation.
Touring the site on Saturday, the government broke its silence on the status of the construction of the multi-billion Koru Soin Dam, which had slowed down over the last 6 months due to financial constraints. Water, Sanitation and Irrigation CS Zachariah Njeru revealed that the government is in advanced stages of deploying resources to set up the dam that sits on over 2,000 acres of land, majorly for the expansion of irrigation works in Kisumu and cutting down on the cost of production across the Ahero and West Kano irrigation schemes that rely on electric water pumping from River Nyando.
One is going to provide water through gravity, therefore it will reduce the cost of production. Once that project is complete, we will decommission the electric pumping process that is here, and we will save every month about 4.5 million that we are spending now.
The Western region, Nyanza region at large, have one of the best water basin. Apart from now also the other one on this side of Tana. So because of that, we want to maximally utilize that, and as for us to ensure food security, we first of all have to think about water security, and that's the reason that we are here today.
While calling farmers to enroll for the fertilizer subsidy program, the PS indicated plans to onboard an additional 10,000 acres of land onto irrigation and reduce reliance on importation.
In the rice deficit plan of the country, currently we're importing over 700,000 metric tons, and in the plan we expect this region to reduce the deficit by 20%. So we expect to produce over 140,000 metric tons from this region, and that will be done through such programs of ensuring we have the dam, and also to ensure also the cost of the farmers comes down.
The Koro Soin Dam is also expected to reduce the perennial flooding on the Kano Plains that causes displacement and destruction of property in rainy seasons. Laura Otieno, Citizen TV.
Now, the Mombasa County government has received a biopsy machine meant to improve health service provision at the Coast General Hospital. Speaking during the launch of the critical medical equipment, Mombasa Governor Abdul Swamad Sharif Nasir said the equipment will go a long way in treating patients with prostate complaints through minimally invasive means, as well as assisting doctors in undertaking guided biopsies to yield more reliable test results in the treatment of cancer. The modern equipment was donated by AstraZeneca and Mediglobe Solutions at a cost of 16.5 million shillings.
TRH are going to the next level of technology and the next level of care.
Na gharama yake itakuwa ni chini zaidi kuliko gharama ya kuweza kulifanya hili jambo katika hospitali nyingine.
Bringing and building the ecosystem with starting with prostate cancer, bringing the biopsy machines, localization of diagnostics also with lung, and we are proud to say that we got around 100 EGFR testing done in last 4 months.
I want to thank my governor for being so good that made you people to see he's a good governor, and that is the reason why you decided to support his government with those very important machines.